How did fear turn Americans into prisoners in their own country? Things you should know by being alive? Well, I want to talk about the Manzanar Japanese-American internment camps in the United States. On a cold February day in 1942, less than 3 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, President of the United States, signed Executive Order 9066, and it set into motion one of the most shameful chapters in American history. Fear and wartime hysteria, combined with racism, was used to justify a policy that would force over 120,000 Japanese Americans, most of them U.S. citizens, to leave their homes and their livelihoods and move to desolate prison camps across the country. Families received only days' notice to pack what they could only carry. Businesses, farms, homes, pets, communities that were built over decades had to be abandoned overnight. Some tried to sell their possessions but were forced to accept pennies on the dollar. Others left their homes in the hands of neighbors, hoping they would find them intact upon their return. Manzanar, which is located at the foot of California's Sierra Nevada mountains, became one of the most well-known of these internment camps. Its name ironically means apple orchard in Spanish, but there was nothing sweet about life inside its barbed wire fences. From a distance, the snow-capped mountains created a beautiful backdrop for those inside, but the camp itself was a harsh prison. Dust storms swept across the desert, seeping into the thin-walled barracks where families were crammed together with very little privacy. The summers were scorching, and the winters were bitterly cold. Guard towers loomed over the camp. They were manned by soldiers with their rifles ready, reminding every man, woman, and child that they were prisoners. Despite the injustice, the internees tried to build a semblance of normal life. Children attended makeshift schools, families planted small gardens, and baseball games became a source of fleeting joy within the fences. Community leaders organized classes and religious services. They were desperately striving to maintain some type of dignity while they were under surveillance. But that sense of betrayal ran deep. Many of these people had believed in America's promises of liberty and justice, only to find themselves labeled as enemies because of their ancestry. The loyalty of Japanese Americans was questioned, yet many young men volunteered to serve in the U.S. Army. They did so to prove their dedication to a country that had imprisoned their families. Units like the 442nd Regimental Combat Team became some of the most decorated in U.S. military history, even as their families remained behind barbed wire. Tensions were inevitable. In December of 1942, the Manzanar riot erupted when internees protested unfair treatment and poor living conditions. Military police responded with tear gas and gunfire. It resulted in 2 deaths and multiple injuries, and it underscored the reality that these camps were prisons and not relocation centers. The internment of Japanese Americans continued for over 3 years. In 1945, families were released with a bus ticket and $25. They then returned to find their homes looted, farms taken over, businesses lost forever. Many had to start their lives again from nothing, carrying the weight of humiliation and loss with them. For decades, the American government refused to acknowledge the injustice of the camps. Survivors carried the trauma silently. They focused on rebuilding their lives in a country that had betrayed them. But they did not give up on justice. Activists and community leaders pushed for acknowledgement and reparations. In 1988, after years of advocacy, President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act, issuing a formal apology on behalf of the United States and granting financial reparations to surviving internees. The act acknowledged that the internment was a grave injustice. It was driven by race prejudice, war hysteria, and a failure of political leadership. Why does the story of Manzanar and the Japanese American internment camps matter? Why do these things matter? Well, it reveals how fear and prejudice can strip away the rights of citizens in a democracy. It challenges us to remember that the Constitution's protections are only as strong as our commitment to uphold them, even in times of crisis. Manzanar is a reminder that injustice can happen when prejudice is allowed to override principles of equality, and it warns us about the dangers of scapegoating communities in moments of fear. It also honors the resilience of those who endured the camps and then rebuilt their lives, many of whom dedicated themselves to ensuring that such injustice would not happen again. Manzanar is not just a story of the past. It's a reminder that freedom and justice require constant vigilance, and that we must stand against fear-driven injustice whenever it happens. If this was something new for you, or if it awakened something within you from a past lesson, I'm very pleased with that then. If you could, please like or share or comment or question or follow for more things that you should know by being alive. Because, hey, Manzanar, remembering Manzanar, helps us protect freedom for everyone. Thanks for watching.